What's up, everybody? Welcome to CanesInSight Primetime. Sunday night, do a little different. Not doing the mornings this weekend. Had some youth sports stuff, and really nothing was percolating. So wanted to let the news develop, and some news is happening here. Want to give you the latest on some 5-star developments in the class of 2027. Portal quarterback talk, as always, and just getting ready for biggest game. We've been saying it, but now it really is the biggest game for the Miami Hurricanes since Fiesta Bowl on Saturday. We're getting close, man. It is officially game week. So we'll be covering that Miami Texas A&M playoff game backwards to front all week. Appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. Green Tree, always good to see you. And as always, we are brought to you by Anjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anjar and Levine. Let us know in the comments if you guys like these evening shows. We did crazy numbers on the last one right before the Heisman. So I don't know if this time on the weekends is good for people. If you want it during the week at night, let us know, because we're trying to get you guys where you're at, man, and make this thing as convenient and fun as possible for you guys. So yeah, let us know on the timing, because that last show, nothing crazy happened, but the show did big time numbers. So seems like there's an audience for these later shows. So yeah, let us know in the comments. Appreciate some of the familiar faces here in the comments. Appreciate all you guys. Kobe Kane says, like morning during the week and listen during work. So yeah, it just depends on the day, I guess. But these weekend shows have been cooking. There you go, Mike, reposting the stream. Good to see you, my man. Mike Ryan, the 5-star general of the propaganda war to get the Miami Hurricanes in the playoffs. Kirk says, it's either you or 60 Minutes. I pick you. You get the real story here on CanesInSight Primetime. All right, man. So wanted to get into, I made a post here that got a lot of traction on CanesInsight.com, 7.7 million posts and counting, biggest Canes community on the planet. And it goes to something that we always talk about in this chat. I get a lot of comments. Every time this topic comes up, 2 things happen. And what I'm talking about is portal quarterbacks. Every time we talk portal quarterbacks, 2 things happen. Number 1, crazy numbers. So people are very interested in this particular topic. Number 2, there are always people in the comments that say, enough portal quarterbacks. We got to develop our own guy. What's going to happen with high school quarterback recruiting if we don't develop our own quarterbacks? Happens every single time. My response is always, I don't really care. Bring in high school guys. Let them compete. I'm excited about Darron Coleman. Came up short in the championship game, but did some really nice things. Bring him in. Let him compete. But, I like having great quarterback play at Miami. And if that means bringing in a Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick last year, Carson Beck, top 10 in passer rating, 10-2, Miami's best season in 20 years with him at quarterback, I'm good with those results. Now, obviously, one and done's, you got to replace it every year. Maybe you got a 2-year guy one of these days. Maybe you got a 3-year guy, or maybe one of the high school guys pop. But I've been pushing this portal quarterback thing pretty hard. I think the results are obvious, but we always get a ton of comments in the YouTube comments saying, this guy's an idiot. Why does he talk so much about portal quarterbacks? We're never going to develop a high school quarterback. We're cooked. Here's the reality. I've gone through the NFL draft, which is almost all portal quarterbacks last year, both portal quarterbacks in the championship last year. Of course, our guys, but the Heisman was yesterday. So wanted to bring this up for everybody so you could see what I'm talking about here. Here we go. It's a note on portal quarterbacks in light of the Heisman yesterday. In the last 3 years, all 8 Heisman finalist quarterbacks came from the portal. Fernando Mendoza, who won it. Jayden Daniels, who won it. Diego Pavia, who was second this year. Cam Ward, who should have won it. Best player in the country last year. Bo Nix, who was just balling for the Denver Broncos. Michael Penix. Julian Sain, who was he signed and then went in the portal. So he was like a quick portal, but still a portal guy. And then, of course, Dylan Gabriel, a 3-time portal guy or 2-time portal guy, played on 3 teams. So those are all 8 Heisman finalist quarterbacks in the last 3 years. And they have one thing in common. They all came from the portal. So to me, everything that you look at, whether it's the draft, where basically everybody besides Jalen Milroe, dozen players, quarterbacks that got drafted last year were from the portal, including our guy. Look at the Canes' success. Our best 4 quarterbacks since Dorsey. However you want to stack them, I would stack them. Cam Ward, number 1. I would say Beck, number 2. De'Ara King, number 3. Brock Berlin, number 4. You could put Brad Kai, who's a high school guy, in that mix as well, but at least 4 out of the 5 portal guys. And some of those were before the portal was even a thing. So when you look at, to me, all the evidence, and this just being the latest one, because we had the Heisman yesterday with Mendoza winning it as a Heisman, as a portal kid. Every bit of evidence says the portal is where it's at for quarterbacks. It makes all the logical sense in the world. You can see these guys playing against college competition. They've already taken their lumps. They have experience. You can see how they fit in your system, what they do well, what they don't. And you're not taking a flyer on a high school player that you've never seen do anything in college. Now, sometimes those guys pan out. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they pan out on a different team after going in the portal once, like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix. So in a world where you got to pay all these guys, including the high school guys, common sense to me continues to suggest that you pay money for proven commodities in the portal. I don't think it impacts your chemistry. We had the best team season we've had in 2 decades with Carson Beck. Cam Ward rejuvenated the whole program, basically reinvigorated the Miami Hurricane brand. I don't see any problems there. So to me, common sense says stay with this portal track. And I'm looking at these names. Again, the last 3 years, all 8 Heisman finalist quarterbacks, not one signed with the team out of high school that they represented at that Heisman ceremony. Not one. 1,200 on, man. Thing is rocking and rolling. Let's appreciate everybody joining us. So Galaxy Kings ask, but portal guys were once high school prospects. How do we balance the two? To me, it's a financial thing. Spend big on the portal. Get the biggest, flashiest, best name you can get. Flashy. It could be flashy, but really best name you can get in the portal. It's going to cost a lot of money, but you at least know where you're spending that money. And it's at the most important position on the field, at the quarterback position. High school, get guys with upside, right? Guys that maybe have something that causes them to not be that can't miss. Because, of course, as we've seen with high school quarterbacks, the 5-star can't miss. They miss all the time. But you're talking about somebody who may be like for example, Darian Coleman this year from Orlando Jones, a low 4-star, borderline 3-star prospect on paper. The talent that he has, the arm talent, the ability to manipulate the football is unique. He can do some very unique things with the ball. A lot of Cam Ward comparisons with some of the angles that he throws from and all the other stuff he does from our staff. You get a guy like that, there's a lot of upside if it hits. Now, the reason he's a 4-star, borderline 3-star, according to everybody else, is he's not that big, right? He's slight. He's like a Marcel Reed size, Kevin Jennings size, Bryce Young size. So you're taking a guy who, from high school, who maybe has something that's causing him to not be a can't miss 7-figure plus quarterback out of the high school, which some of these high school players are, particularly when you get to that 5-star range. But if it hits, maybe you have another Cam Ward. I'm not saying he's going to be that. That story is yet to be told, but there's been those comparisons internally. That's a best case scenario, of course. So that's, to me, how you balance it to answer the question about how do you balance the portal in high school. Get upside in the high school ranks. Maybe there's a lower floor, but get a higher ceiling, because you don't need a floor at a high school kid. If a kid just doesn't work out, you're going to have portal guys anyways. Not to mention other high school guys coming in. So when high school guys, I think we should focus on the ceiling. If it hits, this guy could be this, and not worry so much about the downside. The downside is what's going to bring down the bidding war and everything else. Josh Allen had a pretty low floor coming out. That's why no one recruited him, because he was raw. Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying that Joe Burrow, that these guys, every 3-star, 2-star, borderline, Fernando Mendoza, no star out of high school. And Cam Ward, same thing. I'm not saying that you're going to hit on those guys. Those guys are rare for a reason. But what I mean is the guys that really blow up and become the star quarterbacks were not necessarily the 5-stars out of high school. And even the 5-stars like a Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix often will go to one team and then transfer to another. So if you're looking for a high school quarterback, bet big on traits, Don't worry so much about someone's raw or has one flaw. Bet on the upside. Don't worry about the downside, and then use the portal to elevate your floor. That, to answer the question from Galaxy King, is how I would balance portal and high school. Because when you look at the stats, again, 8 Heisman finalists, all 8 for 8 of the last 3 years coming from the portal, and I don't see that stopping. I think that's going to continue to be the case. Some comments here on Darion Coleman. Howard Stern said, I think Coleman needs a couple years, gained some weight, some experience, but he should be good. He could definitely be good. He's got a lot of upside. That's what fits into what I'm talking about. Get the upside. Don't worry about the downside. Maybe the size doesn't pan out. Like he's just too unorthodox, doesn't work. Okay, didn't work. Maybe it does work. And then it becomes a huge hit because he has so much arm talent. He's so unique as a player. That's how I treat high school, and then portal. Get the best, most proven, most talented portal guy available. Because not only are you elevating your floor, meaning like I know these guys can play because I've watched them play college football, but you still have a high ceiling. I would say Heisman finalist going to New York is a high ceiling. All 8 portal guys. I would say NFL is a high ceiling. 12 out of 13 last year going to the pro ranks, aside from Jalen Milroe, were all portal guys. So, the ceiling is there too with the portal guys, but you have a higher floor because they're proven. What's going on, Kevin? A lot of people in the chat. We're almost at 1,800 live, man. This thing is rocking and rolling. Not Geo says, yeah, Coleman's got a real live arm. I haven't watched a full state championship game where he lost to Heritage or his team lost to Heritage, Orlando Jones. I've seen some highlights. He does remind you a little bit of Cam Horton. Now sometimes he's so calm in the pocket, like nonchalant as he's scanning the field, just, feet in the ground. He is just sitting there kind of standing perfectly still, scanning the field, but then also can elude. I know he showed his legs in this game, also showed his legs last year in the Heritage game. I think that's a byproduct of maybe Heritage defensive line being better than Orlando Jones's offensive line, his offensive line, which forced him to move around a little bit, but he does have that in his bag. Ultimately came up short, but made some nice plays from what I saw and what I've heard from people that did attend the game. So I'll be tuning into that one. William Gibson, why isn't Markel Bell getting more NFL buzz? Listen, I want him here, so we don't need the NFL buzz. But I think it's, he's so big. I think the movement stuff, like, Micah Parsons tore his ACL today, but like guys like that, or he's going to have the quickness to deal with those guys at the next level. I think he will eventually because his length allows him to get away with some stuff. Meaning Markel Bell being 6'8", he needs to just keep tightening it up. I think a year at Miami, be the best left tackle in the ACC, which quite frankly I think he was this year. Be one of the best tackles in the country. Continue to improve and then enter the NFL, ready to be a longtime pro. I'm a big Markel Bell fan. A lot of comments here about Brendan Sorsby in terms of the portal quarterback. I like the talent, man. He reminds me a little bit of John Mateer in terms of just like his style, where he's from. He's from Dallas. Probably more arm talent than Mateer. Mateer may be a little quicker to elude, but Sorsby can run too. And this is Brendan Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback, has not said he's jumping in the portal. He's an NFL draft prospect. I kind of always thought he would go in the portal, but if he doesn't, there's a very good, he'd go to the draft, because it's a weak NFL quarterback class. But if he goes back to the school, I think portal's more likely than Cincinnati. So, we'll see where he goes there. But fluid arm, I'm dropping another comp, and this is not a comp as far as like how good he is. It's more just a comp of the style of play he has, like a Caleb Williams style player, likes to improvise, just has a loose, fluid, explosive arm and can run a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Caleb Williams. I'm just saying that's kind of the style he plays. So he's a guy to keep an eye on for sure. I think the guys, and I don't know which direction Miami's going. They keep this so close to the vest. Sometimes very few, people you think would know might not know. It's a very, very secretive operation for a lot of reasons. The ones that continue to make the most sense to me, Brendan Sorsby, if he doesn't go pro, and CJ Bailey. I just think with Levitt, there's a couple things there. I love Levitt. I think he's a great player, but there's a couple things there that might just make things more complicated between injury, whatever. Some guys will be staying. JKS from Cal will be staying. So when you just look at who makes, Lenore Sellers said he's staying. You look at who makes the most sense. I think a Sorsby, if he does not go pro, Miami would be the best place for him to elevate his stock, most likely, given the offensive line, the fact that the last two quarterbacks had a lot of success from the portal. And then CJ Bailey makes sense for the reasons we've talked about ad nauseum on this show. Over 2,200 on. Appreciate everybody supporting the show. Big Bud Jones, always appreciate your questions. Asking any sense how game prep is going for the playoff. I think it's going well. It's a tough game, man. This is a talented Texas A&M team on the road. It's has hostile an environment from a size of stadium perspective, at least one of the top 5 biggest stadiums on the planet. I mean, this is crazy, Kyle Field, how big it is. And it's going to be full. They've been waiting for a game of this magnitude. This is the biggest game. Just for us, it's the biggest game for them too. Texas A&M has not had a lot of success as a program. So huge moment for them. The fan base is going to be rocking. I think from a Miami standpoint, starting fast is big in this game. Because remember, Texas A&M's coming off a bad loss to Texas. I've been perusing their boards. A lot of people upset. Not like fire Elko or anything, but they're just like, man, I don't think we're that good because they just come off a loss. You know how Miami is when we come off a loss. It's a demoralizing deal. So let's get a nice lead on them, jump on them. That stadium could turn where people are kind of groaning like, oh, man, I don't know if we have it there. And as Ryan says, very nice fans. They are definitely not they're not going to be belligerent, fighting people, at least not often. That's not their style. Bo Handsome says, Sorsby has an NFL arm, 27 touchdowns, 5 INTs this year for Cincinnati, also 500 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. Had a good year. Had some tough moments in the big games. I think BYU and Nebraska, too, that as I go back and watch Sorsby, you wish he played a little better in those games, those moments. But the talent's obvious, man. I think the thing that jumps out is just the fluidity in his arm. Like he throws from a lot of weird angles, which is why, again, I go to the Caleb Williams comp, Mateer comps, not saying he is those guys. It just reminds me a little bit of those guys in the way he moves around. Brad Weber, my man, appreciate you. Yeah, we said we complain after wins. It's what separates us. Yeah, no, but listen, a lot of happy Canes fans right now. I know that. And you could tell. That's why there's 2,500 on a Sunday night. Yeah, I want to do this show in between the NFL games before the night game starts. Just, feels like it's a good time to talk Canes, answer your questions. A lot of injuries when it comes to the NFL. Micah Parsons popping his ACL. It looks like, unfortunately, hope it's not, but that looks like. Pat Mahomes confirmed tore his ACL. It's a lot of bad news injury-wise for a lot of guys. It's kind of a bummer. But listen, that is what it is. Sports injuries happen when you're active or you're athletic. And if it happens to you, you probably want to get back as fast as possible. Maybe even try to hack your own rehab, skip a couple steps. But if compromising your movement or performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's a league competition with Miami Hurricanes athletics or just everyday movement, the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. Oh, Devontae Adams got hurt too. I saw him pull up lane with his hamstring. Hopefully he's all right. Tyson Tracy asking, what do you think about Harvard quarterback Jaden Craig, 6'3", 230? Good player from what I heard. I heard he's got NFL draftable grades. I've not broken him down and watched them, but, I think that's more for a program that's like a middle P4, right, to give him an opportunity to play. I'm not sure that's a Miami trying to win a national championship next year, but maybe. It depends on the player. I got to see him. Kendrick asking, do I like the North Texas quarterback, Drew Mestamaker? Definitely do. Super talented. Guy can move around, big, played safety in high school, didn't play quarterback as far as a starter until he got to college at North Texas. Great evaluation by Eric Morris, who's been behind some of the Cam Ward stuff at Incarnate Word, John Mateer at Washington State. So this guy's got an eye. Drew Mestamaker, the latest. But I think Eric Morris, who has taken the Oklahoma State job, may take Drew Mestamaker with him. Not saying this, I know this, but just seems logical that he would do that. Caleb Hawkins, the running back for that team, also super good. So who knows if that is another one that follows Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Some recruiting news this morning popping with Steve Wilfong of Rivals, one of the more trusted sources. Doesn't bat 1,000, but, he's a national guy. And I always listen to what he says because, I can get things from the Miami side and some other sources, but he's always talking to different programs that we don't have access to. So what he says gives you a different perspective on a lot of these recruitments. And one recruitment that he's been focused on last couple of days. DJ Jacobs, the number one player in the country for 2027, according to 247 Sports, number 8 on the composite, number 1 edge. So whichever way you slice it, this is a high 5-star player, listed at 6'5", 225. I interviewed him in person when he visited Miami. I would say maybe, I don't know if he's 6'5". That seems a little high to me unless he's grown, but definitely he's got some height to him and is just a really, really impressive young man. The way he carries himself, the way he looks, then you turn on the tape, looks every bit of a 5-star player. So that ranking does not surprise me. But why am I talking about DJ Jacobs? So Steve Wiltfong said, Georgia's the favorite for Jacobs. That's where his dad played, right? The DJ stands for junior. His dad, David Jacobs, played at Georgia. Notre Dame's had him on campus, but he said the sleeper to watch out for, the team to watch out for, is the Miami Hurricanes. Jacobs has visited multiple times. I interviewed him after one of his visits. You can see that on CanesInSight in the archives. And, you know, he didn't say too much. He was very professional in his answers, very reserved, very nice and good manners. And again, total pro. But, you know, he wasn't like, because he's a pro, he knew how to measure his words a little bit. But you could tell he had interest, and he's visited multiple times. Loved the coaches, Jason Taylor, loved the vibe. He was here when we were undefeated and rolling, so he got that good energy from the team. Obviously focused on Ruben Bain. But this was a guy that Miami has prioritized. You look at Mark Matthews, the offensive tackle from St. Thomas, who's also in this realm of a 5-star performance and 5-star rating, and has visited also himself multiple times. You could be talking about 2 of the truly elite players in the country being very realistic Miami options. And you think about what positions they play, of course, premium positions at offensive tackle and defensive end. But if you're like recruiting them, you're going to have a first round. Remember, this is April, late April, May, when you get the NFL draft, right? When these recruitments really start to heat up because the calendars flip. They do their spring visits. They start committing in the summer. They do their visits in the summer. So April is right there in the mix. And if you're DJ Jacobs, you're not going to necessarily see a Georgia player on the defensive line, defensive end, get drafted in the first round. You will see Ruben Bain get drafted very, very high. If you're Mark Matthews, the 5-star from St. Thomas tackle, you're going to see Francis Mauigoa drafted very, very high. So I think these are guys we have a realistic chance for. They visited multiple times. Again, people like Wilfong, he himself mentioned both Matthews and Jacobs. So he's saying the same thing I'm saying from the national perspective. You see the talent of Jacobs. Look at the change of direction, the speed, the motor. I mean, from the Atlanta area, this guy is an absolute monster. He goes to a Blessed Trinity Catholic in Roswell, Georgia. But yeah, the motor, the speed is the reason why this guy is such a highly touted prospect, the bloodlines. And I just think, again, the way he carries himself, this is very much a pro's pro. He's the kind of guy you feel okay spending money on and how he's going to handle himself when you do spend money on him. But the interesting thing with Jacobs is his dad was coached by Mark Richt. Mark Richt has very, very, very close ties to this family. And one thing that Wilfong mentioned, again, national guy, was that Richt, in his view, again, he talks to Georgia guys, was promoting Miami. Not talking bad about Georgia, obviously, coached the dad at Georgia, but Richt has been a real proponent of the Miami Hurricanes with the family. And again, this is not just like a former coach relationship. This is a very, very tight relationship between the Jacobs family and Mark Richt. So talking about another thing in our favor, I would put that in the mix. But with any one of these prospects, and I'll give you an example. On December 14th, how many people had Jackson Cantwell, who we knew was going to be a 5-star top 10 player in the country, going to Miami? Probably not that many. But when the visits started to stack up, you say, okay, well, I would assume this guy went to Georgia or, Ohio State or Oregon or wherever. But man, he's visited a lot of times. And his parents have visited. He comes with his family. And then, of course, he ends up being a Miami Hurricane. So I think that is something that you have to keep an eye on, is obviously the amount of visits and the fact that this guy's taking a lot of trips, right? Miami's not the only place that he's visiting. He's visiting Notre Dame, visited Georgia a bunch. He's one of those guys. This is a true national recruit, a true 5-star type of recruitment. And because of the professional way they handle it, their business, and I mean this in the best way, he's going to see a lot of schools even before he does his official visits. But Miami's going to be in the mix, and he's visited multiple times. By the way, almost 3,400 on here live. If you're not liking and subscribing to the CanesInSight podcast, you might be wondering why there's 3,400 people on a random Sunday night. That's just how we do here at CanesInSight. So again, like and subscribe to the channel, bringing Canes news every day, often multiple times a day. And when we talk about a 5-star player, Miami surging in that recruitment, that's something we're going to keep an eye on. Let's see what else we got here. Hassan asking, what about Nick Lanier, big 27 player, reclassifying for the February recruiting class, or he's staying for 27? I've always heard of him as a 27 prospect. I haven't heard of anything reclassing with him. Obviously, a very talented player. Played at Raw Miami with Malachi Toney, Bryce Fitzgerald, a lot of other Cane targets. But certainly DJ Jacobs is a 27 player, and he is going to be extremely, extremely highly touted. Bearded Kane says, create the distraction from the scene of depression. Yeah, I didn't love that ending. I say play the hits, keep it simple, have him go out like Stone Cold, passing out from the choke instead of tapping when his whole thing is never give up. That was a little too cute for me, but I digress. But yeah, looking at the top 10 according to the composite, DJ Jacobs number 8, Monshin Sales from Indianapolis. He's had Cane interest, the wide receiver. Let's pull up this list. Let me just pull up this list because Miami's in on these guys, in on a lot of these guys. So here we go. This is the 2027 list. It'll change of the top players, but right there, Mark Matthews right there at the top, 6'6", 300 of St. Thomas. He's visited a bunch. He's going to see Mawanoa going pro. He's going to see Markel Bell having a great year, probably the best left tackle in the ACC this year. He's going to see Jackson Cantwell, first overall player in the class, picking the Canes, coming from Nixon, Missouri, much less Broward County like Mark Matthews. And Mark Matthews has been here for a lot of our wins. And he said, I want to see Miami basically be a winning program. This guy was, I don't know what year he was born in, but it was probably well into our terrible stretch. So he hasn't really seen Miami win until recently. So now that he's starting to see that and live that. So I think Mark Matthews, Miami's in a very, very good place there. Come on, Spell, the running back from Pennsylvania, super talented blue chip running back. He has made multiple visits. And then DJ Jacobs, who we're talking about here from Atlanta, Georgia area, multiple visits. And I mentioned earlier, Monshin Sales, the wide receiver, who I think got a chance there. He's visited. He's from Midwest. Miami's done very, very well in the Midwest. So a lot of 5-star kids are going to be in the mix for more I haven't even mentioned, but guys that have visited campus already, guys who will continue to visit campus. DJ Jacobs, he told me, he goes, it's not my last trip. I'll be back. So got to get him back. I think probably spring. But look, if Miami keeps rolling the playoffs, why don't we invite all these guys on January 19th to the Rock for the national championship? That'd be pretty good, right? 3,700 on live right now. Howard Stern says, Matthews and Campbell are tackles of the future. Can you say amen? I could say that. How about David Jacobs with some of the other guys on the other side? Who do we get at the Anthony Lafayette and Ashari Charles? Add him to the mix. That's some pass rushers. You can see we're getting pass rushers, right? Guys that can get after it. Guys, even David Jacobs, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but super explosive, twitchy, bendy, all those things. Great motor. So you see pass rushers. It's not all the guys that just look 6'5", perfect, but maybe don't have the motor and don't have the production. They'd rather get a super athletic, smaller guy that can make plays. Big Bud Jones, my boy, asking about Nick Lanier. Appreciate the super chat. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think he'll be in the 27 class. He's visited. Miami will have a chance there, right? That'll be one to monitor from Raw Miami. Nat Geo asking, what's the word on A1 Sears, the super talented corner, safety, wide receiver from West Broward? He's actually class of 28, so he's going to be a while. Maybe he reclasses, but right now he's looking at the class of 28, and Miami has a great, great shot. Another Raw Miami guy, a teammate of Nick Lanier, and same program as Bryce Fitzgerald, Malachi Toney, our boy Coach Duaso. You've seen him on the show a bunch of times. He's talked about Sears at length. Vibe I get from all those people, he will be a Miami Hurricane, but that one's going to take a little while. There's still some time left in that recruitment. So, yeah, let's see what else we got going on here. Some comments on the portal. Everybody loves the portal, man. Everybody loves the portal. JR Bar asking if I'm hitting the THC seltzer, the BUZZN. Not now. I had to wake up. This is prime time, baby. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, DJ Jacobs, man. I'm really excited about that potential. Just getting into that Atlanta area. That's the most hotly contested area in the country. All the SEC schools are there. Clemson's historically been there. Florida State and Florida trying to get in there. Miami's got to do some damage in Atlanta. They did this recruiting class, and they'll continue to do so. Hassan Shiev asking who's the linebacker 27 that made the top 4 supposed to commit soon. North Carolina backer Quentin Cipher. He visited this season, so hopefully he enjoyed his visit. I'll get some intel on him before he commits. By the way, if you want to enjoy your Monday morning, I know it's a tough morning always from a fun weekend, but you want to enjoy your Monday morning breakfast or grab a great lunch, break up your day, or you need catering, man. East Las Canadias Cuban Express, #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. This restaurant, in some form or fashion, has been in the city of Miami since 1977. The real ones know East Las Canadias. You say that name, I wear the shirt. People stop me on the street because they all know what East Las Canadias is about. And I love this one right here, the catering menu, because holiday season's coming up. Whatever you celebrate, you're going to want to show up ready to rock and roll with a plate full of food, a box full of food, looking like you cooked it yourself when all you did was go to East Las Canadias Cuban Express and get pastries, different appetizers, empanadas, entrees, just something from the catering menu in bulk, sandwiches, cubaditos that allow you to be the star of the party, whatever size you need. They have it at East Las Canadias Cuban Express. Take a look at the catering menu. Be the star of your holiday party with East Las Canadias. Question from William Gibson. What do you think our linebackers look like next year? Toure could come back potentially. Yeah, I don't know that that's like a done deal or anything yet, but that's a situation where he's had injuries on top of he had COVID. I mean, he's a 2019. He's the same recruiting class as Sam Brooks, just to show you how long he's been in college. But we saw with Cam McCormick, it can happen when you're injured, like Torrey's been injured. So we'll see that one. Popo Aguirre, a real solid player for us this year. I think you're going to see more of Kellen Wiley, young freshman with a ton of talent. Cam Pruitt, Bobby Pruitt, he's kind of that hybrid safety linebacker, but I see him getting some more snaps. And I think you'll see more. I think you'll see portal guys get in there. Also, Kamal Bonner, the NC State transfer. Didn't really see a ton of him this year, but he was a starter for NC State the year before. Guy mine was really excited to land. We'll see how that one develops. But I think that's a position you could see someone in the portal, as well as just young players like Kellen Wiley continuing to perform. Maybe one of the signees this year. So let's see real quick. What do we got going on? Nachio asking potential wide receiver portal targets. Or are they leaning towards giving the young guys the keys? I don't know. I would lean towards the youth, just because you have 3 guys last year that played as true freshmen. See if JoJo Trader comes back as the junior, that he'd be the true junior at that time, still ascending. I'd like to see him back. I'm a JoJo Trader fan. You have 3 freshmen that played really, really well for you and have played really, really well for you. All these guys are going to factor in on this Miami's playoff run, by the way. And then you're bringing in 4 freshmen from this high school class, 3 of whom I think are pretty well advanced, between Milan Paris, size, speed on the outside, top 10 receiver in the country out of Akron, Ohio. Vance Spafford, who before his injury, which he's already fully recovered from, he was top 10 receiver in the country. Reminds you a lot of Philip Dorsett with his track speed and his quickness and his route running. And then Samori Wingo, borderline 5-star player from St. Augustine, having an incredible senior season, some of the best senior tape anywhere in the country. So all those guys I think can help you right away on top of the guys you already have. So to me, I lean more towards a youth movement around a Malachi Toney, but proven playmaker. We look at the production we got out of CJ Daniels, out of Keelan Marion this year. So I wouldn't look down on a proven playmaker, but I do think homegrown might be the way. And look, in 2024 with Cam Ward, you had homegrown guys between Horton making a leap, Restrepo making another leap, and then Jacoby George improving. So that internal improvement led to your best offense maybe ever. Of course, Cam Ward had a ton to do with it. The offensive line, the running backs, the tight ends, there was a lot going on there, but those were internal improvements with those guys around. Restrepo was an All-America. Now you got Malachi Tony, who himself will be a returning All-America at the wide receiver room. So I would go youth at receiver personally. But that's just me. Kevin Porter says, yeah, get your quarterback now. Wide receivers will come. We've talked about this before where Carson Beck signs late because of uncertainty with the draft, the injury, all that stuff. He ends up being pretty much what you expected him to be, right? I mean, you hoped he'd be top 10 in passer rating. Miami has their best season in 2 decades. He's playing his best football now heading into the playoffs. He'll be an NFL pick. But because he was later in the process, you didn't get that first window wide receiver. You got Keelan Marion in the second window. You did get CJ Daniels without a quarterback, which was huge, but you weren't in the sweepstakes for some of these top guys to accompany a CJ Daniels because you didn't have a quarterback in place. So that hurt you there. I think Cam Ward the year before, when he was going to the draft and changed his mind right before the second semester started, I think that similar. You didn't get those transfer receivers in-house until later. So, Kevin, I agree. Set this thing up, whether it's a CJ Bailey, whether it's a Brendan Sorsby, whoever it is, set it up as early as you can, and then focus your attention on everything else, right? And get that guy down here getting ready to work, hopefully healthy to jump right in. That was another thing with Beck, is that you had the injury, so you had to wait until really the end of summer, which I think hurt his timing. Some of the stuff with SMU, Louisville, I think his timing is really peaking now at the end of the year, the last 4 games, which makes sense because he's had all year to time it up with these receivers, some of whom he really, like JoJo, he barely threw to in camp because JoJo got hurt. Lofton, same thing. So some of these guys, the chemistry is building over the course of the season. By the way, over the course of the season, I'm sure there's a lot of down moments, down time, just trying to kill some time waiting for the next CanesInSight podcast, waiting for the next Canes game, waiting for whatever it is. So why don't you give your free time a raise with KashKick, KashKick, 4.5 plus average rating in the App Store, over 1.5 million downloads. Go to the App Store, download KashKick, and you're getting paid real money into your PayPal while you're gaming, browsing, sharing your opinions with surveys. You're making real money. It's not going to make you quit your job. This is extra money on the side just for doing things that a lot of you are doing already, right? So give your free time a raise with KashKick, KashKick. A lot of people hoping Dallas Wilson leaves Florida. He's a super talented player, obviously. Vernell Brown, I think they're going to probably pay up to keep those guys, give Summerall some pieces coming back. The DJ Lagway part is going to be interesting, seeing how that whole thing sets up. Ryan says, happy Hanukkah, Danny. Well, listen, I'm Catholic, but I live in Miami Beach. So shout out to the whole neighborhood and all the members of the tribe. Happy Hanukkah to all you guys. FSU usually plays bowl games on Hanukkah, but this year they're not even doing that. So maybe next year. Heatherman says, getting a playoff win at Cal Field is going to taste so sweet. I need it. I mean, 1-1 against Texas Tech A&M the last 2 games. Of course, losing at Kyle Field on that Tyreek Stevenson muff punt. I don't think either of those teams were very good. 23, you did have some NFL talent on the field. Texas A&M had a ton of NFL players. Miami had their offensive line, and the Miami dominated that matchup, won that game. And that's the thing. Different scheme, a lot of different things. But I thought that was interesting. That Miami's offensive line in 23, you had Mauanoa there, you had Cooper there, you had some of these guys there, dominated Texas A&M's front. Elko wasn't the coach, but these were like, first rounders, second rounders on that offense, on that defensive line. And you had a strength on strength battle with Miami's offensive line. Miami came out on top. So if Miami can win that battle, Texas A&M loves their front. They lead the nation in sacks. Miami's the best pass protecting offensive line in the country. Strength on strength. If Miami can win that like they did in 23, I think there's going to be a lot of happy Hurricane fans and a lot of big plays through the air. Kevin Porter asking, would Underwood leave Michigan? I don't see it. I don't see it, barring something weird happening. I think they're going to just build around him. He's from Detroit, man. He's such an icon over there, especially after this season. I think he'll probably stay there, and the new coach will build around him. He gets paid a lot, too. Kobe asking, thoughts on Damon Williams, the quarterback from Washington, or getting a youth phenom guy like Keelan Russell or Tavion St. Clair? I'll answer both. With Damon Williams, the quarterback from Washington, undersized playmaker, good passer, can run a little bit, just a point guard kind of guy, right? He's going to make plays. You want the ball in his hands. He can run, but he's really not a runner. He'll run to throw. Very, very productive in the bowl win against Boise State. Denzel Boston, NFL-bound receiver, threw a ton to him. They also have a freshman receiver at Washington that really had a nice game, does some nice things. So With Damon Williams, I think the way he would come into play would be if like a Jed Fish took the job at Michigan, right? And then he'll coach Bryce Underwood. So now Damon Williams, does he stay at Washington? Does he go somewhere? I can see that being one where he kind of gets freed up if Fish leaves, and then those quarterback dominoes start to fall. For the Canes, I'm not sure, but he's a good player. He could throw. I mean, I think he could work here, but I think it's more like he would go somewhere else and the dominoes would fall towards us. Yeah, Roebuck is the name I was looking for at Washington. Thanks, Chad. And the second part, which I think this is something Miami should consider doing, is, recruiting 5 stars out of high school is very expensive, but sometimes you can get these guys like a Dante Moore at Oregon after they sign somewhere else. Julian Sane signed with Alabama, goes to Ohio State. I think Keelan Russell at Alabama, Tavion St. Clair at Ohio State. We know Sane's coming back, so he's going to be the quarterback for Ohio State next year. If Ty Simpson comes back to Alabama, we'll see how the playoffs go. Let's say Oklahoma eats him alive and they lose. He'll certainly have every reason to come back. I think he should come back anyways. He doesn't have the experience. He's, physically good, not great. He's not a phenom physically. So to me, Ty Simpson should come back 100%. If he does Keelan Russell, the number one quarterback in the country last year, get a little cold feet? So these are things that are potential dominoes. And I would support the idea if again, you have to study the players, see the snaps they played in spring games. If the spring game was televised, see the snaps they might have played in garbage time. Of course, go back to your high school evaluation on some of these guys. But I would love that class of 26 at quarterback where Miami signed Luke Nickel. And Luke Nickel's still going to be in the mix here, by the way. There were a lot of really, really good players, a lot of talented arms. A lot of these guys were like big basketball players that played football and put up huge numbers. So a lot of toolsy players. And you have Luke Nickel, who was a good player in that class. So I would not be against getting someone from that class if that's how the dominoes fall. Somebody comes open, let them compete with Luke Nickel, let the best man win. Now you're not just handing it to a Luke Nickel or an Emery or whoever, you're competing and you're adding a 5-star arm into the mix. I like how that looks, but that's just my opinion. Ramon says, if we get a top portal guys with the guarantee they start, if we got someone like Amari Odom or Austin Simmons, yeah, they would have to compete. I would agree with that. So that's one way you could do it. I'd probably lean, given our expectations, more towards somebody who's veteran and they're just guaranteed to start and you pay in that way. But you could also get a talented arm in the room and let the best man win. That's another option. Joe B says, we are this year's Ohio State. We're about to make a run. I don't think Ohio State is the same team as last year. I think they're gettable for sure. Their defense is elite, but you saw Mendoza throw on that defense and win the game down the stretch. You saw, I think Julian Sane, he was efficient in that game, but I don't think he's a guy that if the bodies are flying, I'm not a huge Julian Sane fan if that hasn't been evident. I think the guys for Ohio State where you're a better roster than everybody, I think he's definitely good for that because he's smart, he's accurate. He's going to put up huge numbers with that major talent advantage. But I think if you are pushing around Ohio State's offensive line and getting traffic around Julian Sane, he's not the biggest guy. In fact, he's small. I'd say below average size. Arm, I would say plus accuracy and all that kind of anticipation. It's just a pretty ball, but I would say average arm strength, like just explosive pop. And he's not a good athlete. I'd say below average athlete. So below average size, below average athlete, average arm strength, plus, just accuracy and overall arm ability. You put traffic around a guy like that, and they're not that athletic, they're not that big, and they don't just, the balls just explode out of their hands. They can just throw from weird angles and get it off. Their game suffers a lot. So I think Sane's the kind of guy, everything clean, best team, talent advantage. He's great. He'll throw 80%, complete 80% of his passes like he did and that'd be excellent. But get some people around him. I think it could be tough. Peanut Boy's asking, where am I tailgating on Saturday at College Station? I'll let you know. We're still finalizing some of those plans. It's going to be a lot of fun. 5,000 on, man. We got to do these primetime shows more often. Got to do these primetime shows more often. Yeah, New King God, as he said, Ohio State gave up 6 sacks to Indiana. All right, fellas. Appreciate you, and ladies. Appreciate you guys joining us here on CanesInSight Primetime. Over 5,000 on. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.